Hello fiends! Oh, this again. In this project, I'm going to make this unicorn skeleton into a zombie. Not super happy that I'm doing the same thing as last year, but I did get this base for $1 at a flea market, so it's fine. This one is just going to be a zombie, honestly, not something super special and thought out like aloe vera. They do have a backstory, but I'll tell it as I go. Starting out, I'm going to bulk up a couple of areas, and I'm going to do that with hot glue. I want to cover up the nasty screw holes, and I definitely want her to have at least one hip so I can give her a cutie mark. It took me a long time to realize that fan characters are as valid as original characters, which now that I say it reflects the whole customizing thing really well. Like, using a base to make something new doesn't make you lazy, or any less creative, or any less capable of making something than people that do it all from scratch. I mean, there are a lot of AUs that are basically entirely new stories. But anyway, I'm fine with this just being a My Little Pony fan character. This base is pretty stubby, so they were probably playing off of that style when they were designing it anyway. When I get enough bulk on her, I'm going to use some Paperclay Delight to sculpt some regular meat on her. I'm trying to balance how much flesh there is on her with the actual skeleton because I feel like aloe vera may have covered it up too much, and the stylized zombie look is what I'm going for. I want plenty of her ribs and her skull showing. I really wanted to have her be more durable, but she might just wind up being in the same camp where she definitely won't be able to stay outside for a long time. Oh well. So then, this is a My Little Pony fan character. Her name was Trotting Flesh, and she was a baker. But one day she died, and then many years later, she was accidentally resurrected by a filly that was practicing spells and potions. So anyway, she's undead now, and being such, her name is now Trotting Flesh. It turns out that I didn't have any flat tissue paper to make the actual flesh. I used a couple of regular tissues, which have tiny little spots on them for some reason. I got up to this part without actually watching my last video, but I didn't know if using only water on this specific paper was a good idea. I think it might be a little more humid this year than last. I started this right after Hurricane Idalia, so I should have probably went straight in with watered down PVA glue, but I didn't. I put the tissue down with just water and then added watered down glue. I let it dry for about an hour in between because it was already difficult to get the tissue wet, so I figured that would maybe help. It didn't, or maybe I used a tool that really didn't want it to, or maybe the mixture was too heavy. But yeah, I don't like this texture. The glue did its job. I didn't get to set up my camera before I added some more delight to the fleshy bits. I really just rolled a length of clay and blended it in at the edge of the clay and the tissue so that it seems like they're on different layers. It took like 2 days to dry enough to sand it, and it still was too wet to do that, but it came out flat enough to not have too much texture under the paint. Before we get there, I'll sketch in her cutie mark from now. Originally, it was a baguette and a muffin with a bite out of it, but since she became a zombie, it's a hunk of flesh with a bone in it and a brain muffin with a bite out of it. I thought it was a cute idea. I really hate these skeleton props that they make. Why the hell is the hair made of bone? It's not something that I could have removed from the base without destroying the integrity. These details are why these things work better as zombies than just skeletons. Anyway, I'm adding on to it so that it doesn't look so awful. We're using epoxy just so that it doesn't fall off. I'm making her hair a little bit curly. I kind of want to emulate those Funko vinyl figures that they had, but that's taking kind of a lot of clay that I didn't want to use. Her hair isn't as voluminous as I would like it to be. I should have used more glue there, but I really don't want to waste so much epoxy on this. I sometimes tell myself to think of things in comparison to how much money you're spending on something and how much time it's going to take you to replenish that. Like, is a fast food meal really worth an hour of minimum wage work? This project isn't worth quite so much epoxy. I added plenty of hair to make her bangs, which frame her horn and hide the weird transitions. I'm also adding some to the tail because it's too boring. For some reason, I thought it would be a good idea to carve in this stripy hair detail, but then I realized that the bone part of her hair doesn't have it. That actually doesn't turn into an issue, it winds up looking alright. By the way, if you were unsure, sanding down curved surfaces like this is the worst. It's not coming out right for me. This is going to take me eons to get smooth looking. Alright, so now that she's sanded to my preference, I'll throw on her initial layers of paint. She's going to be super Halloween colors. Her hair is orange and purple, her fur is dark gray, and the zombie flesh is going to be green. Blocking out the colors of the mane is really important because of the way these paints dry. I'm purposefully avoiding her cutie mark right now so that I have a blank place to paint it properly. It's going to be important to get the flesh painted before the fur because it's going to get a little messy. I'll go over the green with a darker shade so that we have a base for the shadows and stuff. Over that, I'm going to lightly brush on some other shades of green for variation. I don't exactly dry brush this, I just go over it kind of lightly and that works out. You can see all of those little dots that the tissue paper had and I am not crazy about it. The topmost layer is going to be a light color to make the texture pop out. I think it turned out more on the realistic side than the cartoonier look that I wanted, but I don't care to try again. I painted the orange part of her hair in first. It's going to take more to cover up purple with orange than the other way around. I thought that the orange from the bottle looked good enough, so I just went with that. I had to mix up a purple that looked good, and this one also took some time to build up. These colors are so different and hard to cover up when I make mistakes. I was worried that there was too much orange to purple with the initial paint coats, but I think it turned out okay by the end. I kept forgetting to redo the eye socket on the fleshy side. I didn't think the Delight was going to dry in time or be firm enough to get a good shape, so I used Apoxie instead. Apoxie sculpts well onto Delight, but the sanding on this part wasn't coming out smooth. Maybe the grain of paper I was using wasn't right, but it was what I was using earlier on either material independently and getting similar results. So I'm not too sure why combining them made it stop working like that, but I kind of expected it to. As far as the colors on the cutie mark go, I wasn't sure by this point. The image from earlier was done in post. I know that the brain has to be pink, but I want to keep the Halloween color scheme without being too repetitive. I thought to make the meat be brown, but I wanted it to seem like something that a zombie pony would eat, which would be other technicolored ponies. So I made a mustardy color and gave it red stripes. The muffin liner is blue because I didn't know what else to color it. The flesh of the meat is also going to be green. I'm painting the details of the brain in a lighter color, using that tone as the positive space because it's easier to do it that way. I sealed the painting before I went in and outlined it and the flesh with the fur color. This is really dark gray because I wanted to use black in different parts of her. I have a hard time deciding when a gray is the exact tone that I want, and this wasn't an exception. When everything was properly outlined, I went and painted the rest of her body and head. I've mentioned that black can be kind of delicate to use, and I was getting some screw-ups while I did this. It seemed like it was rubbing off around the edges because I could see some green by it, but I didn't use green after I did the gray, except for some spot cleanup. I thought it was odd. Getting the details all squared away took some time. I want these color blocks to be very defined and fairly precise, so I kept going back and forth with all of the colors. I also mixed up a muddy color to wash the bony areas to make it look defined and dirty looking. I think it helped out. I wasn't too sure what color I wanted her eye to be. I was going to have the Slayer be black, but that was going to blend in too much. I still wanted Halloween colors for this, but also make it look kind of gross and zombie-like. I went with a yucky-ish yellow for the Slayer. I kept getting flakes of paint in it, which was annoying. The iris is going to be red. I was really impatient when I came to this for some reason. I did the regular Friendship is Magic look to the eyes, with the black shaded gradient up top, and the two horizontally highlighted stripes on it. It's easier to paint that part of FIM eyes before the pupil if anyone is still doing that. It looks like Generation 5 isn't anywhere near as popular. Like I mentioned, the gray is just a little too dark. I added a little smile and eyelashes to her in black, but they're really kind of hard to see. The eyelashes were killing me to see as I painted them. As usual, I went back and cleaned up everything in between footage. Of course, I've been sealing her all along the way. I used a mix of water and both matte and gloss stirred clear varnish for this. I want her to be a specific amount of gloss, but that's something that I'm going to take slowly. I've been able to go over matte varnishes with glossier ones, but not the other way around. so I'm going to take it slow to make sure that it turns out how I want. I'm going to make the black details on her face straight matte varnish so that they stick out better. Here is Trotting Flesh all complete. I think the colors on her are pretty good. They're decently Halloween-y. I think I maybe had hopes too high for that aspect. I'm not crazy about the colors of her cutie mark, but her eye is fine. As far as the mods go, I think that they came out okay. Again, I wish the paper that I used didn't have that texture to it going in because I hate the little spots. I wish I bulked her head better to get nicer hair, and that the end of her tail looked better. The curls are good enough, I guess. I'm happiest with the way that the Delight parts of her came out. I was going for a kind of emaciated look because she probably hadn't eaten for a while, and I think it turned out really good with the subtle curves. Overall, she's alright. I think she's one of the more satisfying results of my 2023 projects.